Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Art Whisperer 88. In this episode I will show you how I prepare my tissue paper for collage. And here I have done some freehand brush strokes with my fat permanent marker, and it serves two purposes. My goal is to make use of these tissues as collage elements later, and also by doing this it's kind of like an exercise to get warmed up, kind of like what actors and dancers and singers do before they perform on stage. They get warmed up by either practicing some chords, or in the case of dancers, they warm up and move around the stage. Now here I have done some random circles and gestures and scribbles just to get warmed up, and I find that it's very helpful. When you start warming up, you are not worried that you'll make mistakes, because one of the big drawbacks or obstacles in making art is when you're afraid of making mistakes, you become very self-conscious. And by doing a warm-up exercise, it helps you to loosen up and be a little more laid back. So anyway, these are my preliminary exercises, and these will come in handy later. So I protected the jelly plate with some blank paper, because the tissue paper does bleed through. So here's my plate. And in this print I am going to concentrate on lines and circles. So I'm going to create these random lines and just draw them across the plate. I have to kind of glide the pen across the gel plate because of the sticky nature of it. If I press too hard, it's going to start skipping. Okay, that's a series of vertical lines. And here's a bunch of materials that I saved up. This is the bag that holds the onions when you go to a grocery. I cut this open and I thought it might make an interesting texture on the plate as a found object. And then I have my favorite material, which is bubble wrap. This is the small pattern. And then sometimes when I get packages of art supplies, it comes with this large pattern, which I think will make very interesting marks on the plate. So I'm not going to overthink the composition of this piece. I'm just going to go with the flow and start to ink this up with a white, or not a white, but kind of like a beige color. This is Lukas Krill Studio. It's beige, but it's more like a creamy color. So I'm going to switch this to a long shot so you can see the entire image. Okay, now you can see the entire surface of the gel plate. And I will go ahead and charge the plate. And I have to keep remembering that it's better to put too little than too much. So I won't have to remove the paint. So I'm charging it with my brayer. Now some artists like to use the widest possible brayer, but I prefer the opposite. I like to use smaller ones because I have more control, like the way I have control with the brush. I'm making this as even as I can because this is a transfer technique where I try to transfer the Sharpie pen onto the paper. Okay, so this is very evenly coated. And this is my trusty rag. I'm just gonna make sure that the printing bed is clean. Maybe later in other episodes I'm going to change these foam tabs to another piece of wood so I don't have to keep adjusting it. So here's the first print. And maybe in this case, I will leave the paper on for maybe 10 to 15 minutes, as opposed to pressing really, really hard, which I don't think is such a great idea for the paper. This is just to make sure there's a good contact between the paper and the plate. So I'll let this sit, I'd say 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and I will be right back. Okay, I'm back after a few minutes, and I think the transfer has been successful. As you can see, I'm being very careful. The paper has really stuck onto the plate. And I can see some tiny bits of orange and green from the previous print. I did my best to clean it off, but it's still there. It's not a bad thing. I think it lends some interest to the print. Actually, at the same time, when it picks up the markings, it cleans the plate too. So I look at it on the bright side. So I do like these little residue marks. If you can probably not see them very clearly on the screen. Let me switch to close-up. So here's a close-up, and you can see there are really faint ghost images from the previous prints. But as you can see, the vertical lines that I put are so clear and have transferred so well that it looks like I drew them directly on the paper. The only difference is they're in reverse. So this is the first pull. I'm quite happy with it for a first pull, and then you have already very complex textures and color. So let me switch back to wide angle. So this is a wider shot so you can see the entire image. And I will later see if I can use any of these as collage elements. Instead of my usual copy paper. So let me put this away. Let this dry even further. And I'll see what kind of paper stencils I can use to create some patterns. So I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. As you can see here, I have used some of my leftover stencil paper and put together some kind of composition with them. I want to play with some positive and negative spaces. And again, I'm taking advantage that the plate is slightly sticky. So in order to push the paper down further, I take a piece of paper and press so the stencils really stick to the plate and do their job. So now I will apply some paint on top of these, and I'm trying to decide which. I think I'm going to go with some ochre. And some green gray. Now I really don't know how this is gonna look, but I'm gonna try. Going to use a smaller brayer and see how this works out. So hopefully what's going to happen is the paper stencils will cover and protect the paper from this layer of paint, and it will show the vertical lines in the first pull. Now in this case I'm not trying to make the paint too perfect. I want to take advantage of the texture that it makes. Again, I have to make a mental note not to forget to remove the stencils when I'm done using my brayer. Because one of the worst mistakes, you see, like one of these came off already. One of the worst things is to forget, and you'll result in a big mess. Yeah, this came off too. That's okay. I just have to okay, enough of that. And we'll see what the second pull will look like. And just to refresh your memory, here is the first pull with the vertical lines. Oh, I should take the stencils off. That was a near disaster. That's why I don't throw out the leftover cutouts, because they do make interesting stencils, and the shapes are related to what was, you know, what was there before. They have the same theme. Okay. Okay, let's see what we get. Okay, this time I'm going to apply more pressure because it's a second pull and the paint layer is not as thick. And what I'm hoping is the image will be textured and transparent. Again, I'm going to try to leave the paper on a little longer. Maybe instead of 5 minutes, I'll do like a 10-15 minute wait. And it might make a big difference in terms of transferring all the paint to the paper. Now, the good thing about using this Somerset paper, it's heavy enough, but at the same time, it's pliable because it's 100% cotton. So let me let this sit, and I'll be back in about 15-20 minutes. So don't go away. Okay, I'm back. It's about 15 to 20 minutes. So let's see what we have here. Oh, I think it looks good. It's got that mottled look that I'm after. There we go. It's not a brightly colored print, but it certainly is interesting. And I'm going to see if the collage is going to work in terms of color. I think it will. I can use this. I can use this, or this, or this, or little pieces of combination. Okay, I think I will hold off on the patterning because it's already getting busy. So I can use this for a different print. So what I'm going to do is take some of these and see if they can be useful. And I like to place not the whole thing, but just a fragment because I think sometimes a fragment is more interesting than the whole thing. You go like that. And let me see. See, the good thing about using this tissue, since it's transparent, I like my scribbles going this way because I'm right-handed. Now, had this been done on a plate, it would be like this. It would be the reverse. So I'm going to use this. And maybe an oval shape. Which I think is more interesting. Like so. And this is one of my favorite patterns. Let's see what else. So in a way, the color scheme of this is very monochromatic, which is it's a nice change from the bright colors. Let me see if I can use these. I do like the ends. I think that will work. So I will get my trusty Mod Podge and start mounting this. Okay, I'm back. I have my trusty Mod Podge ready, and it's almost gone. You see how much of it I use. So this will be first. This is the oval shaped tissue. Oops. And do this. seems to be really fragile. This is a tan colored tissue paper. It seems to be even more fragile than the white one. So I'll be careful not to play with it too much. Okay, this is the top piece. Just go with the horizontal strokes. And hopefully the texture will show from underneath. Because I think when this gets mounted, it becomes really transparent. Almost like a plastic film. It's the interesting behavior of tissue when it's mounted. It loses its opacity. Okay, now here's the hook-shaped piece. It's kind of like a seahorse. See, when you see, when I was little, when I would see little shapes, different odd shapes, I would associate them with animals. This does look like a seahorse. Okay, and the last bottom piece. Let me see if this looks better this way. They almost give you the illusion of written words when they are really just a series of lines. Okay, I'm not going to play with it too much more. I might rip it. So, that's the composition today. Well, you know me, I cannot leave well enough alone. I think this will work here. I thought it needed just a little spot of color, just to break up the monotony. Right here. Again, this orange piece is a leftover of a stencil, or it's one of those copy paper pieces that I had put together early on, and I'm glad I can use it so it doesn't go to waste. So here is my composition with, let's see, 2 layers, paper stencils which were recycled, and some tissue paper with some markings on them. I'm going to switch to close-up so you can see the detail. Okay, this is a close-up shot, and let me hold this up. There's a little bit of glare because of the glue is still wet, but you get the idea of what kind of effect the tissue and the jelly plate prints and the paper stencils working all together to make an abstract composition. I hope you enjoyed this short demo, and I hope it inspires you to do your own masterpieces and not to be afraid to make mistakes. I always tell myself the mistakes are what makes you learn. You rarely forget when you learn the hard way. So thank you for watching. Thank you all you subscribers and faithful followers. I will see you next time.